Beautiful.
Okay, well, hi everyone. I'm Paul Sevilla, Adult Services Librarian at the Livermore Public Library. And welcome to our special program this afternoon. Our first live in-person author program, actually, since the pandemic began. And our first time here at the lovely patio, Storytime Room patio. Yes, I invite you all to check out our library books and resources to support new immigrants that are on display there on that table. Here in this library, we have a citizenship corner with books and resources for people who want to become U.S. citizens. We have a free online resource called Pronunciator to help people learn English and other languages. We also have a wonderful literacy services here, which Carrie Jones runs. Yes, thank you. Welcome, Carrie. And so our literacy services, we have volunteer tutors to help those who would like to receive free tutoring to help them improve their basic English speaking and reading and writing skills. So check out our wonderful resources. Also, I invite you all to please fill out a survey after the program. We'd love to get your feedback. Copies of the book are on sale after the program. And now I'm delighted to introduce our special guest today. Mesfin Piccigallo is an author and speaks and writes in 3 languages. Tigrinya?
Say it right.
How is it?
It's not an easy word.
Yes, I know. Tell me about it. Amharic?
You did it again.
Oh!
No, you did it again.
I did it right. Okay, good,
Right.
okay.
Good job.
Okay. She taught English as a second language for 2 years in Dalian, China, and continued her writing skills by teaching Chinese teachers to prepare their English curriculum. Senait is a graduate of Asmara University in East Africa. She has a bachelor's degree in Sociology and Anthropology, and she resides here with her husband and her children here in Livermore. And today she is joined by Rebecca Gaspar. She is a friend of Senait's for more than a decade. She works in communications for a pet health company. And she will be, together they'll be discussing Senait's book, You're in America, Now What? 7 Skills to Integrate with Ease and Joy. So please join me in welcoming them both.
Thank you, Paul. And thanks for all your time putting this together and for getting the word out. Thank you guys for joining us today. I'm super excited to be helping Senait launch her extremely useful book that I hope will get out to all the people that need it. And as Paul mentioned, I've known Senait for more than a decade, and probably almost that long ago, we were pitching a tent in the dark with several girlfriends, 2 tents in the dark. I'm sure you're going to remember this, Mary. And we were bound and determined to spend the night out with some fresh air and under the stars. And somehow in the conversation it came up that Senait, in your native language, it means joy. And all of us were kind of like, oh, well, that makes sense. Because Senait just kind of radiates joy, and she brings joy, and she's always smiling. And so then when I was reflecting on the book, and the subhead in particular, 7 Skills to Integrate with Ease and Joy, I thought, well, and then I read the book, and I thought, okay, there's a lot of practical advice here for easing your transition. But the joy aspect of it is that there's a lot about attitude as well. And so I kind of now read this as 7 skills to integrate with ease and Senaitness. So congratulations tonight on the launch of your book. We are all so excited for you. And we're going to go over several questions, and we would love for this to be interactive too. So if you have questions, if you have comments, please feel free to jump in as we converse about the book. So first I want to talk about why you wrote the book. Tell us, who you wrote the book for.
We have
Sharing
only
mic.
one, Mike. First of all, I just want to say thank you for inviting me here. And I don't know if I told you, Paul, and thank you for coming, everybody. But this is so important to me, being here, because like Paul mentioned, they have, the immigration corner over there, for those of you who know this library. And that's where I wrote part of my book after we moved from San Jose to Livermore 4 years ago, Marco. And that's exactly where I was sitting and writing part of the book, hoping one day my book will be an addition to every book that I see here today. And it's so important for me to be here, and I'm very honored, and I'm very happy to be here and to see all the faces here. And what was the question again?
Why'd you write the book? Who's
Okay.
it for?
Okay, so I wrote the book because of my own struggle when I first came to the U.S. For anybody who comes to the U.S. as a single person, it's a very, very challenging thing to do, to adjust to the U.S. culture. But I was not just a single. That's why it's annoying me. But it's welcome too. Right? So not only was I here by myself, but I was a single mom, and also with a disabled child. And you can imagine the adjustment process was really, really amplified. Like trying to find all the resources that I needed was challenging for me. So that's when I decided I needed to write that book. Did you say who did you write it for?
Who did you write it for?
And I wrote it because along the way, and I'm like, why is it so difficult to find all the information that I need in one place? And don't get me wrong, there are amazing nonprofits around, and they have services. Like if I want a job, they would direct me in the right way, or how to write my resume. We call it CV, but here resume, and how to adjust it to American, standard, or anything like that. How to find a job, how to find housing, or whatever. You can find those nonprofits. But what I was missing was, how do you navigate this diverse culture, which is changing every day, and it's even confusing for you, for people who are here. And we just jump here, and we're like, so confusing. And I really needed a guidance, and I needed like skills to help me, guide me, to show me, okay, what do I need to do, and how to learn the language, or not the language, but the cultural norms and everything. So I wanted to give people who come after me, like a little trail, we call it. I wanted to leave that for them because I remember my own struggle. And then I thought, after writing this book, I thought I was gonna save it until I retire, and that's when I'm gonna publish it. But a few things that happened in my personal life pushed me to publishing it sooner than later. One of them being meeting Salim, a good friend of mine. This book is actually in her memory. When I met her, she struggled a lot because she couldn't adjust to this culture. She was smart, she was beautiful, she had a 3-year-old girl, but she had constantly suffered with not understanding the culture. So she didn't know how to handle her emotions. She didn't know how to seek help. So she ended up becoming an alcoholic, and she ended up doing drugs. And and then it eventually took her life, and she left at 3 years old, you know, beautiful girl. By now she's probably 7, and that kind of pushed me. And I said, you know what, it's not fair. I mean, to suffer when you don't have to. There are ways to, you know, to build your skills to actually navigate this beautiful country we call home, right? And that's why I wrote it.
Can you guys hear okay? Do we even, because I'm not, is something coming, I guess it is coming through this.
Okay.
Okay. You know, in the book, you describe it, the integration process for you was like putting together pieces of a puzzle. So you talk about things like leaving breadcrumbs for the next people behind you. You also seem, it's kind of like a cheat sheet in a way. She solved the puzzle and now she's leaving behind practical advice and, like I said, personal stories to help others, but always in that sort of positive way. So what is one takeaway or one thing that you would definitely want people that might read this book to know?
Thank you, Rebecca. Well, depending on who reads it. But this book is for newcomers, of course, mostly. That newcomers are courageous people. They leave, you leave, if you are here, you leave your country of origin. Nobody wants to leave home. Imagine that today you have to leave home and then you have to go somewhere else. That wouldn't be fun, right? Nobody wants to leave home, but it takes courage, it takes bravery, it takes a lot of trust and a lot of dedication to what you stand for to actually come here. So I just want immigrants to know that they're brave and they're a gift to this country.
Nice. And what is the definition of cultural integration exactly?
Okay. Well, that's a long discussion, but the short answer is cultural integration is embracing the new culture without diminishing yours.
So do you have some stories about things that you found that when you experienced culture shock? In the book, I know you describe when you have a new understanding, when you have clarity around a cultural norm here, that it was every new understanding brought a new sense of relief, and that you kind of put all these pieces of understanding and relief together until you felt you had your head above water, and at that point you could sort of see your American dream in front of you. So what's an example of culture shock that you experienced and then your understanding that followed?
Right. If we talk about my cultural shocks, we will stay here for 3 days, maybe more. But I'll give you one personal example, and I'll give you another example, an extreme example that happened to someone else. So the example I want to give is one day, and it's embarrassing, and I don't talk about this a lot because it was an embarrassing experience for me when I first came, and I saw this beautiful woman. I haven't seen her in a long time, and then she looked beautiful, and so I said, "Oh my God, hi! You look beautiful. You look fat and plump and amazingly beautiful." And she took an offense. She was like, I couldn't understand what I said. I said you were beautiful, and I meant every word. But she took an offense, and that was my cultural shock. And I came to learn the perception of beauty in America is completely different from the perception of beauty that I brought with me, because in my country, if they see you skinny here in this country, you would say, "Oh my God, you look amazing, you look great. What word? Have you been exercising? What's your secret?" But in my country, it's the opposite reaction. "Are you okay? Are you ill? Do you need to talk about it? Maybe you're sick." But if you see someone, fat, and we say the word fat, and that's the sign of somebody is healthy and beautiful and happy. And that was my cultural shock, and I had to correct it really quickly because I didn't want to get in trouble with everybody I met, or so now I say, oh, you look beautiful, and I have to refrain myself from saying that word. So that's my one of my cultural shocks. Another one is, this might be a little bit extreme, and also it's a cultural shock that caused someone that I met at the courthouse. I work as an interpreter at the courthouse. That's my colleague Hazel, and we see a lot of things there, people that come there. And one day this African American, African, I like to say it, who speak my language came there, and I was interpreting. And apparently he was really nervous and shocked and scared, and he didn't know what he did wrong. And apparently why he came was because he was at the park, and there was this beautiful Caucasian woman passing by with her two little adorable kids. Girls, and then he saw the girls, and then he was just sitting there to relax, and he saw them, and he said, oh my God, what an adorable kids. And he grabs one of the girls and he hugs her and he gives her a kiss on the cheek, and he's like, you have beautiful girls. And obviously you know what that means in this country. So she called the police, and the police arrested him, and he had no idea what he's done. And later, when the attorney was through me asking, and he was also asking about the culture, this is totally appropriate in my culture. Like anybody, whether it's a guy or a woman, can actually talk to kids. That's what we're supposed to do. Run after kids. Even you can play with kids if you see them outside, and grab the kids and kiss them and play with them and have a conversation, a normal human conversation with the people. And luckily for him, I know that's extreme, but that's the cultural shock. For him, it was like, oh my God, but it cost him a lot, because luckily for him, he had a good attorney that listened to the cultural aspect of it, and they gave him, like, maybe he has some mental issue that relates to adjustment to the culture, and he was under informal court probation for 3 years. But it was a horrifying experience for him. That's the extreme of it. So there's the funny part of it. There is a horrifying shock of it.
And like you said, we'd be here all day if we were just to go over
Yes.
all of them. I do have a quick story about kind of a reversal of roles situation one time over at Senait's when her son Joseph was born. As per tradition, a lot of the folks from her community were coming over in celebration, and some of us girlfriends were over there as well. And unknowingly, in the middle of kind of a cultural, traditional celebration, and it was just one of those moments where, well, first, let's describe it. They were making like a vocalization that you do a certain number of times if you've had a...
Oh, I can do it for you.
Can you please?
Sure, I don't need that.
You don't need that. Okay. So constant stream of people coming into the house doing that, and we didn't know what it was about, and so it was like, you see what I'm saying with that reverse thing. For just a moment, I was like, okay, I'm in the minority right here. I'm from somewhere else, and just trying to wrap my head around what was happening, and thinking that how brave, as you pointed out, how much courage and bravery and openness to new things you have to do as you integrate. I was thinking Senait deals with this every day or for so many years.
Thank you.
We have a question here.
A question, thank you.
You said you came with 3 languages. Did you learn English because you were coming here, or is that a requirement in your country?
That's a good question. So in Eritrea, and I know this is also true in Ethiopia because I was born and grew up in Ethiopia. So, and most of African countries, the mode of learning is English. But I have also put a lot of effort in learning the language on my own, reading books and communicating with other people from another country only in English, practicing. So if I didn't have the background, I wouldn't have been able to speak, but I had the background already, and then it was also self-taught after that. Does that answer your question?
Okay. So, talking about integration, you say it's possible to fall in love with America without forgetting your birth country. And so that's the definition of a successful cultural integration to you?
This is weird, huh?
It's okay.
Yes. Sometimes people don't like to integrate with America because they feel like it might mean forgetting who you are. And I see this, I also work as a coach, integration coach, so I see two types of people. There are people that completely, they freak out, they don't know the culture, they don't know the language, or maybe they know the language, but they don't know the culture. So they live in their bubble. They only communicate with people who speak their language. They know their culture and they know what they're going to talk about, and there's a lot of culture shock or anything, culture shock, but there's no growth there, right? You're going to leave small. Maybe you can have a job, you can have, your little circle, and that's it, right? So it's very limiting, and every immigrant that come here has a dream, a big dream. They don't know how to achieve yet, but we all come with a dream, and it's not possible if you are living in a bubble and if you're not immersing yourself in the culture. And then there's the other part who forget about their culture, everything about their culture, and they try to imitate everything about the American culture, and they try to learn the good, the bad, the ugly, everything, and then that has a consequence, because then they are forgetting part of who they are, and then when they go to the Americans they don't fit either, because there's always that thing that doesn't feel like, they're not born here, so they don't feel like they belong anywhere. So the middle way is the best. Then you can love your country. Like, for example, you were mentioning about the coffee ceremony and the ceremony that we do. I cherish and love it, and I'm very proud where I'm from. I love being an African because that's where I got my education. That's the country who made me who I am. All my teachers, all my neighbors, and every value that I got in life, I got from there. So I'm very proud of that, and I cherish it, and I love it. And I love speaking my own language. I love expressing myself with my own language. And I love having the coffee ceremony with my mom. And oh my God, I almost wore my traditional clothes today. Oh. But I love also wearing my traditional clothes and displaying, where I'm from. Yeah. And then I love America, obviously, because of what it gives me, because of what America's values are, the amazing friends that I have. Like her, for example.
I was going to add dancing.
Dancing, I love dancing, yes.
She brings African dance. Cool.
Paul, you need to call me for some cultural dancing here.
There we go. All right, so let's get to one of the readings from your book. So if you want to turn to page 43, you guys, this is about her port of entry here with San Francisco. So she came in here in San Francisco and has been in the Bay Area the whole time since she got here. And I was always trying to imagine what that moment must have been like for you. And one of the things she says in the book is, I couldn't keep one feeling in place for longer than a few minutes. So I can just imagine how overwhelming you are. In this passage that starts on page 43, you describe that overwhelming feeling of arriving in another country.
Okay, perfect. Let's see how I can do like that. It's okay. So when you go to a new country, if you're like me, you're traveling from a developing nation to a developed or Western country. It could be overwhelming. Everything you see is magnified. It's noisy, loud, and fast-paced, especially if you move to a large city like New York or San Francisco. As I mentioned above, before coming to the USA, my very first experience in a large city was Beijing, China, in early 2004. I remember the mere sight of the city was frightening. I did not understand that what I was feeling. The emotions and feelings I had were foreign to me. On the same day, I went from feeling so happy about seeing something new to feeling so fearful of what I didn't understand, feeling intimidated by someone or something, and sad for missing what was familiar. It wasn't easy sorting out all that I felt because I never felt all those feelings all at once. I had no idea how to understand and manage my feelings and emotions. The whole process was so complicated and confusing, especially before I could communicate a little bit better with the people around me.
Thank you. That's good. All right. And you said there was something that really helped you deal with feeling overwhelmed in the early days. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. So the first time that I discovered that nature is all around me was my friend Troy took me to see the redwoods, and it was somewhere in the Redwood City area. I don't remember the park now, but he took me there, and I felt I don't know what I can't even explain it. It was like, oh my God, I felt so at peace. And I've never seen redwoods before. We don't have them back home, and I completely fell in love with the redwoods. And I felt like I was not in my country. I was not an Eritrean at that moment, and I was not an American. I was just simply a human being embraced by nature and in Mother Earth. And the redwoods does it for me. Hiking and being in nature in general, the ocean or anything like that, still helps me to this day whenever I feel overwhelmed.
I love that story. Okay, so we're going to talk about the 7 skills that you just said, because it is the 7 skills to integrate with ease and joy.
Right.
I'm just going to tell you guys what the 7 are. Positive attitude, healthily managing your emotions, being open to a lifetime of learning, building a support system from scratch, attitude about money, self-confidence, and the last one is the dance of cultural integration. So of all those skill sets, which one do you think is the most important for newcomers to the country?
Thank God you read all of them, because if you asked me and I'm like, oh my God.
It wasn't a quiz.
Yeah, I'm like, well, I remember all of them. I don't even remember what I ate this morning. I'm getting younger, you know? So those are the skill sets like you mentioned, and there's not one specific one that is separate from the other. It's like going to the gym, and you know, if you want to exercise to build your muscle, the bicep, tricep, I don't even know which one is bicep, and you know, you can tell I'm not a person who goes to the gym, but I have seen it in the movies. So if you want a bicep, you have to do exercises for the bicep, right? And you have to do exercises for the up, and then you can do that. And then they all work together. But if I have to choose one, the support system is the most important, because unless you feel safe in an environment where you could actually explore anything, any new thing, then you can't get anywhere. And as we all know, I don't know, some of you have been born and grew up here, and you might not have gone through this, but one day I came here and all my routine was gone, and my everyday life was gone, and everything that I have built around me was gone. So it was like me standing naked in America, because I had no one around me. So in order to learn anything, your mind even doesn't function if you don't have a support system around you. You might not have your parents or your brother, your siblings, or anybody, but you need to immerse yourself in the culture, or maybe find a community center that speaks your language, or someone you feel comfortable with, and building that support system is actually the key to a successful integration. Because if you have that, then you can relax and explore, which will take forever. I'm still learning new things every day. So that is the most important, is the building the culture. I don't know why I mix the cultural with the support system. Somehow they mix in my head. So you need a support system, a strong support system around you. And I want to mention that also one of the things that immigrants need to be mindful about is it's a second opportunity. If you think about it, can you imagine like living your life and start over? There are so many things that we don't like about our lives, and but we're given a second chance to begin again. So you have to be very careful who you surround yourself with. It has to be people who are really positive around you. Otherwise, you might attract people who tell you, my goodness, you came all the way here to America. Forget about your dreams. It's not like what we thought. None of it is possible. America is the worst country to come to. And there are so many people that actually believe that, and they think that's cultural integration. So it's very important to associate yourself with people that are positive and who will help you get to your American dream.
I have a question.
Go for it, Hazel.
In building your own support system, are you consciously looking for people in both sides, people from your country, people from here, and to help balance the unbalance?
So her question was, are you consciously looking for people from your culture and people from here to kind of balance that out? And I thought it was interesting in your book, speaking of just the word consciously really quick, you make the point that when you grow up in your culture of origin, you take your support system for granted. So when you get here, you do have to be mindful about it. You have to consciously do it. So did you consciously look for people from both cultures to kind of be balanced?
Yes. So I don't know if that question is directly to me or to people in general, that my advice would be for immigrants.
As an immigrant myself,
Yes.
I just would like to see how you build
Okay.
in general, for people in general, your culture, my culture, everything.
Right. So it depends. For other people, it depends on their level of comfort. In the beginning, you might, you don't know anybody. I mean, you look at someone who doesn't look like you, who doesn't talk your language, and it's very hard to try and make friendship with them, right? So it's a level of comfort and where you are, with your comfort level. So most people, they go to their community center in the beginning, and it's advised also because they need that support in the beginning. But my advice and what I have done in my life is I can go to my community center and I can speak in my language and I can totally be immersed in that culture and be with them. And I have friends, I have my high school friends, and I have so many friends from my own culture. But I also have very deep relationships that I have built with people who are born and grew up here, like you. And like Mary, I have a circle of friends that we nurtured that friendship for over a decade. We haven't agreed what day we met yet, because like I said, we're getting younger, so was it 2009? But they're very meaningful relationships. I can't even call them relationships because they're practically family. Like Mary, she was there when my second child was born, holding my hand. She was right there. So that kind of relationship is possible with people who don't look like you. So to answer your question, if you want to successfully integrate to this culture, you have to balance both. You should not forget who you are and your people, and that's who you are, but also integrate to this culture, and also you basically become a new you. You don't really belong there, and then you have a very unique perspective because you are standing in the middle, and you are able to, you are an interpreter, you understand, right? Standing in the middle, you hear something and you interpret to the other person. You're just in the middle. So the middle way is the best way. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it would bring me a second question.
Go for it.
Do you think that the educational level would help people to accept, for example, going to a community center and kind of see a little hole in that bubble? Because in many cultures, mine, for example, we don't tend to look for community center, so what can we do as a society to help bring people into the community?
Oh, well, integration is a two-way street, right?
Right.
It doesn't happen only we came here, okay? I don't have to just integrate with everything that is here. There are things that I don't agree with. There are values that I brought. There are so many, I call it like I brought a big luggage. I'm not talking about my clothes, but it's my thought, my ideas, and my belief, my culture, and everything that I bring with me. So the culture here also has responsibility to integrate with what we bring as immigrants. Otherwise, it becomes a one-way street, and it would take people farther away from the culture. I hear a lot of people who are born here and raised assume that we don't want to, integrate. Or why don't you learn your own language? This has happened to many people. Why don't you learn English? You know what I mean? Because they're not integrated to what we're bringing. So that's for another book. But the culture that is here already needs to also do the work to integrate with what we're bringing, whether it's from, South America or Africa or whatever, because we actually bring a lot of gifts. It's not only food.
Although that's a good thing. That's a really good thing.
Right.
Another question is that I have a niece that came from Japan when she was in her 20s, and I found that she has 2 children now that she continually brings back and takes them to a Japanese class. She takes them to a dancing Japanese. She's allowing them to know the culture that they'll never know.
Right.
And I feel that the integration of the people themselves to go to that extent is just beyond beautiful.
Yeah.
Not beautiful, but it's beautiful.
Yeah. Beautiful. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
But I feel it's up to us to...
Right. To see that. Yeah. Thank you for noticing that.
Okay, that chapter that we were talking about, the building your support system from scratch, the from scratch part really made a big impact on me. That's the difference. You were saying you were standing alone, and then you have to mindfully kind of build your network and be mindful of the people that you choose to be around you.
Right.
In that same chapter, we're going to do another reading now. The one on page 142.
Okay.
You talk about tools. One of the tools that helped you as you were building your network was kind of learning how to understand boundaries. And she shares a story in her book about how she gained an understanding of the importance of healthy boundaries. So this one starts on 142?
Yes. All right.
Can I help you hold?
I want to protect you.
Yeah.
Don't get closer. Okay. Thank you. Okay, so I never had my room growing up, as I shared a bed with my brother and sister when we were young. Traditionally, we all ate from the same plate. As kids, when we went outside to play with many other kids in the neighborhood, if I did something wrong, my friend's mom had the right to discipline me, even physically, as this was customary. To sum it up, although I was born to my parents, I was everybody's business.
I love that line.
I really understand and live the African proverb, it takes a village to raise a child. Everybody in my neighborhood raised me. There was no sense of me, I, or my. It was always we. Physical boundaries were non-existent. Growing up and making friends, I complained, excuse me, I complained about people all the time, such as someone did this or that to me, or someone dared to say that to me. The persistent complaining followed me in my adulthood life. My friend, Grandmasu, may God rest her soul, who I met right after I moved to the US, listened to my many times and told me that I needed to strengthen my boundaries. At first I wondered, what does she mean? What is she talking about? What do boundaries have to do with anything? What is she talking? It took me over 6 months to understand the concept. Yep, that was one of the most significant discoveries of my adult life, and it has changed my whole relationship experience. I read every book on boundaries and codependency, and my relationship transformed like day and night. I finally was able to seek out only healthy friendships and relationships and transform those that were unhealthy, if I couldn't let go. Thank you.
I was everybody's business. It actually reminds me of the story that you just told too, about the man you met in court who didn't understand the significance of picking up somebody else's baby.
It does.
All right. Any other questions right now? Comments? I'll keep going. In your book, you combine personal stories like that one with facts and statistics from reference materials. You have some checklists and exercises that are all designed to help readers apply real-world lessons to their life right now. And you have a list of strategies to learn English. So this is kind of a little bit to your point about really making an effort to integrate into the culture you're moving into. So what's your favorite on the list of strategies to learn English?
That's also what she mentioned. So, what's your name again? Susan mentioned. So there are many ways to learn English for sure, and I will be careful because there are some English teachers here. But my favorite one is talk. Just talk. Every opportunity is a reason to talk, and you can tell that like I like talking because I actually my job is talking. So so one of the things immigrants are afraid of is that they will be judged. I'm gonna get the grammar wrong. I'm gonna get I'm gonna say something stupid, or I'm gonna say it wrong. So they hold back, and you can do all the studies you want as you like. You can go to the college and then learn, but if you don't practice, you don't know how to speak the language. So talking is very important. Me myself, I myself, I still make mistakes. It's not my first language. It's not even my second language. It's my third language, and I make mistakes all the time. I make mistakes in grammars. I sometimes mix my E's with R. I mix all of it, and it's okay. I was not born here, and just to know that, and to tell people that you are interacting with, if you are nervous about that, you can say, "Hey, I'm new here, and I may make mistakes, but feel free to correct me." I have so many people who correct my English, and I love it because I'm from Africa. I'm everybody's business, so I don't mind it. You can tell them ahead of time, and people love to teach their way of life, right? We all do. They love to teach their language. They love to teach their culture. So if you give them a heads up, they can be compassionate, and they're not going to judge you. They're not going to say, "Oh my God, what is she talking about?" And they worry about the accent. Some of us have very strong accent, and it can be very difficult, right? So, but that shouldn't be a limitation. Talk all the time, and then you end up, having a job that's all about talking, like me. You know what I mean?
You manifested that.
Right.
Thank you. I just got this invitation today. I would love to read before the book, before this time. I am a Spanish teacher. I came here 23 years ago. I didn't speak English at all. My first experience was here at the library. I was telling the person here that I had a tutor. Now when I tell my students, okay, I am teaching, and I say, everybody's going to say, "Oh, this stuff like a gringo." Don't feel offended. The accent is nice.
It's sexy.
So, sexy. That's right. That's right. The thing is, I feel how you face the fact that some people look at you and say, "What is she talking about? Why is laughing? Why is she laughing? Why is she doing this?" And look at you down just because of the accent. Even though you have a bachelor degree, master and everything, but you have sometimes, somebody here was saying, "Oh, maybe the level of education gives you certain level of access to some people or places." But what about people who doesn't have that level? How we manage that, the shock that we have when we have to speak, everybody has to pay attention to us, and some people they just ignore. What is I know it's your third language, but you also almost grew up with the language. So your accent is no accent. You're it's like that. Wow. So I'm very impressed. Okay.
Thank you so much. It's probably because I had coffee this morning. Right? Sometimes I'm like, I'm like, I can't even figure out what to say. Switching between languages is very, very difficult. And I don't know if I understood your question. You're saying, how do you face the criticism?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. So in my book, I actually have one of the skills is about confidence. There are two things right here. There is the part of it that I said the other culture needs to integrate to us, remember? And that's their work. They have to do their work, and we'll talk about that later. But for us as immigrants, we have to learn how to be confident, no matter what, because you know who you are. When I first came here, the first job I got was as a caregiver. The first job I could get was as a caregiver. It was a shock of my life because I came to this country with a degree and with a lot of experience. I even worked for a UN agency, and I came here and I was like, oh, I'm gonna get this job, and I got it, and then they were like, whee. It's like, what? It's not that jobs are, some jobs are better than others. I respect all jobs, but that was not my expectation, right? And then which means that other people were also looking at me as a caregiver, not as Senait, what my experience is, what I brought with me. So I'm judged by what I do, right? So it takes time and practice, but we need to be able to stand in our confidence, right? You need to master that confidence in a way that you master your environment. Does that make sense? But if you feel like, oh, they're judging me and they're I need an approval from them, then you're always gonna feel like you're gonna see yourself like they see you. You show them who you are by standing in your confidence. Another example is maybe you are light-skinned, but there is racism in this country, right? Not everybody's racist, and every country has racism. But there are racist people who look at me, I'm black, and I'm nothing. Imagine that. So you need to stand in your power, in your confidence, to dictate who you are and to dictate your environment to see you the way you are, not the way they assume that you are. Does that make sense? Yeah. And then the other piece of it is we need to come out of that mentality as people see us. Oh, because I'm black, because I speak different language, or I don't speak the language. My mom doesn't speak the language. She says hi, she uses sign language, and she will communicate. And I don't know how Aaron's nurse communicates with my mom. It's a surprise, it's a mystery. Seriously, they communicate, and then Betty really gets it. I'm like, oh, you understood that? She said, oh, yeah, I got it. What? So it's we need to come out of that mentality. What people think about you. If you don't tell me you have masters in, what did you say? You have
In second language appreciation.
Right. If you don't tell me, how am I gonna know?
Yeah.
Right? You have to be able to voice that. You have to discover your voice, and you have to discover your self-expression, and show me who you are. Show me your culture. Show me you're proud of who you are, so that I can be proud with you. Does that make sense? And then for the other people, once we master that, then you can bring that to the people that don't know your culture, and then we change the culture together. But we have to come out of from that personality. Saying, oh, it's his fault or whatever is not going to work for us, right? We have to start with ourselves. Okay. Does that answer your question?
Yep.
Okay, perfect.
All right, Paul, I just want to check on time because I'd love to leave time for more conversation. Are we okay?
Yeah.
Anybody else have, we can pass the mic around, yeah?
I'll try to speak up. You don't have to bring the mic. Confidence is not that easy to get. It's not like I can read books, I can do this, I can do that. I came as a child to America, to the U.S. There's a lot of America. And my biggest thing was I didn't have confidence. Thank God my dad was 6 foot tall and had the biggest hands. He was my confidence. But I was a good speller where I came from. I thought I had good, and English is my first, second, third language. But I thought I was good, and in school I would get bad grades because we spelled color C-O-L-O-U-R. And I would get it wrong because I didn't have it. So people have to, reach deep inside themselves to understand that not everybody has the confidence that's there, and you have to help them build it. I was in the literacy program many, many years ago, and I just loved the confidence that woman had. She was just outstanding. So we have to help them build.
Right.
Yes, please.
You're right. It's like I said, everything is a learning for all of us. And I will give a few examples on confidence. And it doesn't, you don't get it by reading the book, like you said, but it's a practice. It's the language. It's like the language. I keep talking. I'm better today. I'm better tomorrow, and then you master it. You might not be like people who are born here the way they speak English, but you will speak really good English, right? It's the same way with confidence. It's a learn. It's not like if your attitude is either I am born confident or not. Then we all are capable of learning. Okay, I'm going to tell you one story that you might not believe. Okay, one thing that I lacked confidence is public speaking. Would you believe it? The first time I spoke, I don't know if I told you guys, the first time I spoke was in front of 1,500 people. And that was the first time. When I was growing up, there were drama classes and stuff like that, but I don't know the reason. I have never been to one. So I've never seen myself being in a spot where I could talk. So that time I organized a concert with some of my friends, and people were like, "Oh, you guys pulled it off, awesome!" And then they said, "We would like you to make a speech." I said, "Sure, I'm confident, right?" And then I went on the stage, and I froze. I was like, "What the heck happened?" I was surprised myself because I assumed I was confident, right? I didn't know I lacked the confidence when it comes to speaking in front of people. And my dad and my sister joke until this day about that experience. It was the most embarrassing moment of my life because I had a piece of paper and I was shaking it, like my hands were like going like this. And my sister afterwards, she said, "What was that you were doing with that paper? Was that a fan?" It was that visible, and she was sitting really far away. And that was horrible. And after that, it was just practice. I did a lot of self-help. I did a lot of practice, and I'm sure I'm not shaking, right? My hands are shaking? Not yet. So I still feel nervous, but I am getting there. Does that make sense? So if I have said, you know what, that's just who I am. That's how I am. I discover something new about myself, and I'm shy in front of people, and that's that, right? Usually we leave it at that, but that's not true. We can learn. We can learn about ourselves. We can do online courses, whatever we need to do to build our confidence. And being in America, building confidence is not easy, but it doesn't mean it's not possible. I am the example.
What else? We can pass the mic back to make sure everybody can hear. Questions? All right, I'm going to ask you the last question on my list. I'm going to skip one and ask the last one. So, what would you say to someone who just recently immigrated to the U.S.?
Is there anyone immigrated from anywhere to the U.S. here today?
No.
Oh,
Not
okay, not today.
Not today.
Yeah.
Not today. Not today.
Not today.
Not
Okay.
10
So-
years ago.
Right.
There are a lot of
So a lot of
immigration
yeah. So I think I mentioned in the book also for almost 3-4 years I didn't feel welcome. It was so weird, and a lot of people from my culture say welcome, welcome to America, and I've heard it 100 gazillion times, but it didn't sink in. I didn't feel like I belong. I didn't feel welcome, and that's what I want to say for people who come here and might not even feel like they belong here because America is very colorful, isn't it? It's beautiful in every sense. We have beautiful people that you meet, but also there are racist people that you will meet that will make you feel, that will look down on you, that will call you names, that will call you a lot of things, and that will not see your worth, and you're just another person from another country taking their jobs, or they have all these ideas. Forget about those people. Have compassion for them if you can, because they need to integrate too. They don't know better, right? But you can really make meaningful relationships here. You can make your American dream, the dream that's inside of you, that you have not realized it yet. It's possible. Doesn't matter how big it is. And I know this for a fact because every immigrant brings a big dream when they come to America. But we get lost in the, in looking for a job and dealing with a lot of stuff. But that is possible. And welcome. This is a beautiful country that we call home, and you are part of it, and we're lucky to have you because you're a gift. You are America, and you are what America is made of. And welcome home, and you belong here. That's all I need to say.
Thank you so much. On to the Q&A. Who would like to ask a question or comment?
Well, I admit tonight you were right. I didn't quite finish your book, but I read enough of it to know that if you are a native-born American, it's really helps. Reading the book makes you more open to helping, understanding what you need to do to help people who are immigrants to this country. And it also helps when you're visiting another country. I had a friend whose husband once in France said very loudly in a restaurant, "Doesn't anyone here know how to make breakfast? Like bacon and eggs and pancakes?" And as we all know, I'm sure they could if they wanted to, but that's not the way you eat breakfast in France. But how much more enjoyable it is to take those lessons, internalize them when you're visiting another country, and realizing their breakfasts are great. I'll do a croissant any day. But anyway, it helps both ways. So it's not just for people who are coming to this country. It helps those of us who live here and those of us who go somewhere else. So it's a great book.
Thank
Very,
you.
very good.
I really appreciate that. Thank you, Helen.
Yep. And it's all right.
Or what is this, a pass it down game? Oh, no. Who else?
Hi, thank you so much for your talk. I really enjoyed it. I didn't catch if you said this. What was the motivation for you to leave your home country? You said that it's very hard to leave everything behind.
Right.
So I don't know if it was more pulling here or being pushed from there or a combination. Could you talk about that?
Sure.
Thanks.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you so much. Yeah, we didn't cover that. For me, it was something different than the normal way of living your country. It was a choice. My son has a disability, and he was born with something called cerebral palsy. I didn't even know what cerebral palsy was until that happened to him. And so there were no services for those kind of kids. And I actually had to travel to China to find out what was wrong with him. And I lived in China for 2 years. And then the doctor said I needed different kinds of, what is it called, services like OT, PT, and all these fancy words I never heard of because we don't have them back home. And we hide that kind of kids because we don't know what to do with them because we don't have the services. And I heard that's true here also a long time ago. Going back to Africa, I didn't know what to do with my child, and the only way I could find those services was in either in America or the Western world in Europe. And I tried to go to Europe. It didn't work out. And you wouldn't believe this. And I've tried every way to get a visa to any Western country. And a lot of people actually think getting a visa is easy. It's not. It's not easy. You have to have a reason to come here. And none worked, and I finally gave up. And I won a green card lottery, believe it or not. And I've been trying to play the lottery ever since to win money, but I did not. So I won a green card lottery to come here. So luckily, I was not forced to leave in a hurry, like most of refugees, had to.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other question? I can talk and talk and talk. You can go on until, Paul, do we have time?
Thank you, Senait. Yeah, and Mary's selling books.
Yes. We're going to have book signing for those of
book
you who
signing.
need. Yeah. She's going to do my talking for me.
No, I just wanted to add, we are all immigrants. No matter how long our families have been here, my great 11 generations back, grandfather was John Alden. Okay, came over on the Mayflower. I'm an immigrant, just like we all are. And we all come here with our own stories and our own heritage, and it's so important, like you said tonight, to embrace the gifts that people bring with them, because we all have gifts, whether they're spiritual gifts or knowledge gifts or cultural gifts or physical, whatever it is. So it's just wonderful to have all of you here. I hope tonight's book is read by not just immigrants, because I think it will help other people who have been here for generations to open up their minds a little bit and embrace people who bring other things and come from other places. And we're so honored to have her as one of our sisters.
Thank you.
And we are selling the books over here. I don't know if they are. We're selling them.
Marco knows.